Hi everybody, this is Dark Guardsman, and we're back with another video here. So we're going to show off really quickly something I built earlier today on the stream. So this isn't really impressive probably for most of you, especially those of you who are not technically inclined and have not actually done programming or worked with any kind of software where you had to build something. And it would look as if it was something that you just expected to exist in the software. But what the feature I'm going to show off is the ability to tab cycle through buttons. This is a feature that actually is not defaultly supported by Unity. It's not something you can just go into Unity and just drag and drop a component in and all of a sudden you have that support. This is something that had to be built, and actually I built it up in a reusable way that I can literally sit here and tab through everything. I can not only tab forward, but if I hold shift and hit tab, I can tab backwards, which is really useful. I can even go in and if I click, say, enter, I think they have the option of enter, spacebar, and I think there's one other way to actually do a confirm. I can go into my menus and I can actually click here and go through these and actually cycle these, and it will continue to cycle, so I can come right back out here and actually do stuff. It has support for multiple different formats. It is actually built not as a linked list as somebody might expect and go, oh, you just did a linked list and you just cycle through the linked list of your current components. It is not built that way. It's actually done via a column and row system. There's actually, you can put as many columns as you want, as many rows as you want, as many components as you want per row, so you don't actually have to adhere to a consistent row format. So say you wanted to have a row of 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. You can do whatever kind of what you want, however you want to make it fit. And the big beauty of it is, of course, you can disable buttons, you can disable entire rows and have stuff cycling it out, and the logic will handle it automatically. So I want to show this off. The reason I explained it is we can go right into the game. I can hit escape, and the way my game is designed right now for the main menu is that after the first time you start the game, it will then show a resume restart button and disable the play button. So that first menu had 2 disabled buttons, and this one now has 1 disabled button. And if I hit tab, I can cycle through it as if it was a normal. And the beauty of this also is it only responds to hitting tab once, or whatever other system you want to do. Right now it's only set up to do tab. I plan to also get this done with the arrow keys. That's the reason why the column and row system does work. Of course, we can go through here, only hit tab once each time, and go back through this. Very good for accessibility, and the whole reason this was actually even implemented was I had actually messed up the resolution on the game while testing it. I could not get in there to fix the resolution, and of course there's no way out of Unity to easily get a hold of your resolution without doing it in-game or via some external system. I did find out, of course, Unity does store all of its resolutions in the registry. You can delete that to reset it, but I wanted to make sure we had a tab complete to get it into here and actually do stuff. Cool thing, this is also extended down here. The only downside with this system is it does have to be manually implemented on every single component. I can show this off right now. So here's my panel for my restart and panel for exit. I don't have a prefab at the moment for my yes, no, confirm dialogue, so we're just building in individual ones for each one. We have this actual component here, script, that is called my tab selector. It keeps track of the row, column. I have it set to -1 for column by default. This allows it to initialize and then select that first button without the tab being selected on start. It just makes it look a little visually nicer. We then set our row size here. We currently at element 0. We have 2 objects in here. We have it set to no by default. That way the first thing we select is no. This is actually really important when you're designing a UI, that you don't want to accidentally hit tab to hit enter and then set it up to hit the actual yes button immediately. Anyways, so this is all set up there. Works like that. Each of the buttons also needs a script set up to just kind of track if it was selected or not selected, and then set a selection caller so you know it's selected. This is a reusable script. It's actually not just built for individual thing. So technically you can extend it and make a script per component you want to use. This is actually incredibly important because the entire concept behind getting to this is being able to tab complete or using just a keyboard to get through the entire UI. So if we wanted to go to options here, for example, I don't have it set up for options at the moment. I have to go through and do this, but we would be able to program a script to do our toggle here. Or not toggle, our slider here, so we can do where we select it and then use the arrow keys to actually change the value, or maybe tab over into the little text box here and then hit enter to get into it and then change its value and enter again to set it, and go through here, go over here and set these, go down through the keybinds, do all those, being able to do that all through the keyboard. So we could make a script for that. The actual code for this is incredibly simple code. I don't know if I'll ever make a tutorial on how to do this, but we'll go off and just show it real quick. I also have a stream up on Twitch that you guys can watch through before Twitch deletes it from its archive. That actually just showed me going through this whole process. But you, of course, same stuff here. You just have it where it's tracking a single selector. I have this building here to prevent issues. I was looking at the code and realizing I could just disable every one of my selectors I go through as I need them, and that would work for the most part. But what happens if some kind of error happened and now you have two selectors running at the same time? We don't want to run in that situation, so we just track current selector. We still keep the should function, so that way we can initialize a GUI with a selector turned off. Say we have some condition we want to make sure, like some animation plays or whatever, we don't want to have the selector turn on right away. We still have that ability while still maintaining a current selector. The actual key handling, I'm using direct key codes because I don't actually want this to be reassignable, because tab is a very common thing to be going through a lot of UIs for keyboard. Of course, I do actually have a track for submit here, and there actually will be probably handling for D-pad for most controller devices, and probably some other keybind assignable ability to get through here. So very simple key on update. We have a method where we can set the primary selector. This is actually useful because I'm calling this from a few of the buttons to make sure stuff is getting set up right. Next selector just cycles through everything, just make sure that we get a nice fluid system here. Previous selector just does it in reverse. We have a tracker for on selection change that makes sure that we unselect and then select the next button. Also does some checks to make sure if the button can be selected. This is how we do our disable check. Key thing with this though, I do have it hard coded to only be select up to 5, so this has to be changed if there ends up being more than 5 objects disabled in a row. This is just there to prevent the while loop from ending up getting stuck if a whole bunch of buttons are disabled and then freezing up the game. And of course, a lot of other stuff in here. So it's a really simple script. The actual selection script, which is what this uses, is just a pre-built out mono behavior that just has a few methods in here: on select, unselect, on activated, and can be selected. This is then extended for our little button here that just goes through and just sets the color, then allows us to activate the button. Really basic setup here, and this could be customized to do all kinds of things. One of the things I'm probably going to end up doing, especially for my game here, is because of the fact that this little selection thing has the same color as my highlight color, is to maybe put some arrows. So have an actual image that would cycle, that would show what button is actually selected separate from the highlight color. That way you still get the highlight color. I also want to come in here later and actually implement it, that if you start selecting stuff with your mouse, it will disable the selector temporarily until the mouse is no longer moving around. That way you don't have this issue where the button is currently selected, but then your mouse is currently doing something completely different. That would also be where something bringing in the ability to do an image icon would also play really well into effect for making that look a lot nicer, because then we wouldn't have to worry about disabling it, because then the selector would be really nice. We also could tie it in with the mouse and just go, okay, on mouse over, then set the current selecting index, and do a few other really nice tricks to make it much more fluid and much nicer accessibility handling of the actual UI. But that's about it I want to show you guys, and I'll be back with more videos and content here later.